Okay, I show that it is 2 o'clock, so why don't we go ahead and get started. I'm sure we'll have some people join us as we go. My name is Lisa Goodpaster. I'm with the Carle, Illinois College of Medicine. So to kick us off, I wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are, and then I will introduce our speaker today. Here at the Carle, Illinois College of Medicine, our mission is to educate exceptional physician innovators to deliver high-value, compassionate healthcare through transformative solutions developed at the intersection of engineering, science, and medicine. We're driven by 4 key values that permeate our culture and drive our curriculum. We call them our 4 C's: compassion, competence, curiosity, and creativity. As part of our culture here at Carle, Illinois, we are committed to creating a diverse and talented community of students, faculty, and staff, which is essential to fulfilling our mission. Carle, Illinois actively promotes an inclusive environment in which students, faculty, and staff can learn, teach, research, and serve. This includes supporting and providing opportunities for those that are underrepresented in medicine by having programs such as REACH. The REACH program, which stands for Research and Education for the Advancement of Compassionate Healthcare, is an intensive clinical and research immersion program for undergraduate students interested in pursuing a career as a physician. In addition to helping students prepare for medical school, REACH was developed to grow the presence of underrepresented minorities in the field of medicine. For more information about the REACH program, please check out the REACH webpage on the Carle, Illinois College of Medicine website. And if you have not already, you can sign up through the interest form to be notified of any new information or opportunities about this program. You can also contact us anytime at the email address listed, reach@medicine.illinois.edu. So as a member and a participant of our REACH program, I am happy to introduce our speaker today. Jenny Crum is the Senior Assistant Director for Health Professions Advising at the Career Center. Prior to this position, Jenny has experience supporting students at the U of I for nearly 20 years in university housing, the Dean of Students Office, and UI Chicago College of Medicine Urbana campus, where she worked with MD, PhD students. She has experience in admissions as well as providing academic and career support to medical students. In her free time, Jenny enjoys fishing, hiking, spending time with her partner and their 5 cats. Welcome, Jenny. We're happy to have you today. So I'm going to give the mic over to you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you to all of the participants who have been able to attend. I don't know how long I'll keep my video up of myself because that can get a little distracting, but I wanted you to at least see me. So I've been asked today to talk about networking and how that can help pre-health students find opportunities along your path to your career. There we go. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about networking and building that those connections and how you can utilize those connections, and specifically for pre-health students, how can it be helpful? We're also going to cover some strategies to build your network, as well as how to utilize that network to find these opportunities. And I will also leave you with some resources. If you have questions, you can put them into the chat and Lisa will moderate that for us. But please feel free to jump in if you have questions or would like me to kind of stay on a topic that I may have already left. I'm very, very flexible. So when we talk about networking, what do we mean by that? I am partial to this definition. It's very simple: developing and maintaining contacts and personal connections with a variety of people who might be helpful to you and your career. Doesn't have to be anything scary, but this is really about you taking initiative to help finding those opportunities and connections. Shadowing opportunities, volunteer opportunities, work, all of these things do not simply just fall on our laps, right? We have to go out and look for openings, look for internships, or talk to people who are involved in these things and find out how they got to where they are. And so that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about networking or building connections. And it can be really valuable for career exploration in any field, but certainly for pre-health as well. So that's what we're going to cover today. So having that network of connections can be helpful for you because it is a great way to learn about opportunities for shadowing, for research, volunteer or work experience. This can also be a network of people that can advise you on your career choice, can share their own insight on their own career paths, but as well as the one you're on. They can even assist you or be there to help you through your application process or interviews. They're also, they can be a good resource for keeping you up to date on issues and trends or latest news, that are facing your specific interests in healthcare. What are the, latest issues in, facing dentists today or physical therapists, for example. And it's just a really good opportunity to develop a motivating support network. No matter what health profession you are thinking about pursuing or you're going to pursue, all of these are pretty challenging. It's difficult, of course, to gain admission to these programs, but then these are very, very stressful careers. And so having a group of people in your corner, right, who can support you, who can be a sounding board for you is going to be really important as well. So why is it how can it be helpful for students who are pursuing the health professions? I really like to stress making connections with practitioners. So if you are a pre-med student and you have never, really interacted with a physician, that's okay. And maybe you're having trouble finding, a doctor to connect with, that's okay. But have you ever talked to anybody who works in healthcare, a nurse, a pharmacist, any connection like that with people who are practicing in healthcare can really help you understand what it's like to work in healthcare today. And certainly if you want to be a dentist and you're able to find dentists to spend time with, they can help you understand what it's like to be a dentist today and all that entails. And that's really important. It's important for a number of reasons. One is it's important that you have a realistic idea, a realistic picture of what it means to be a dentist today, for example, or a physician, or a nurse, or a physical therapist. Right? We may have some ideas on what it might be like working in a hospital as a physician or a surgeon, thanks to shows like Scrubs and Grey's Anatomy and things like that. But we want to know a little bit deeper understanding of the role and scope of a physician, the role and scope of a pharmacist today. This is going to be important as well during the admissions process. When you apply to your health profession school, your job is to convince an admissions committee that you are ready. You know the role and scope of that role of a physician, of a dentist, etc. And your application is going to be convincing of that. And so the more time you spend with folks who are in the field that you aspire to, the more it's going to look like, yes, you really do know what you're getting into, and that's really important throughout the application process. I just want to take a moment and talk about your path. What a student will never get from me is a checklist. Oh, you want to be a physician? Here, do these six things, and you will be, a strong applicant for medical school or dental school. You're not going to get that from me because it's really about your path. There is no one way to prepare for dental school or to become an OT. It really is about your interests, your values, and your passions. There's so many different ways to explore medicine, to explore pharmacy. There's so many different reasons that you might be motivated and pulled to pursue these fields, which is fantastic. But it is up to you to find those motivations and interests and passions, and to follow them. And so that path really is just about, you have to really make it your own path. And don't be afraid to make it your own. I know that it can definitely be hard to listen to maybe your classmates who, when it seems like everybody is doing X, Y, and Z, but you've done X so far and you're not really interested in Y or Z. That's probably okay. You're interested in something else. You have a different path. I just want you to know that. You probably have seen this picture before, sort of when people talk about, life happening. I like this just in terms of career development, somebody's career path. I know this definitely looks like my own career path. What I had planned maybe when I was in high school and what I thought I was going to be when I grew up, and where I am now. And so I think this is just a really good depiction of career development, because you never know where one opportunity is going to lead you. An important part of career development for some people can be finding out the things that you actually don't like. And so if you, think you want to enter into one field and you start volunteering, or you get some experience, you're talking to more people in that field, and something is telling you, I don't think this is a good fit, or you're really turned off by some aspects. That's a good thing. Means you might have to go back to the drawing board, but then you know that, okay, this might not be for me. What's next? But this is just a good reminder that you never know where some of these opportunities are going to lead you. And that's based on the experience, or perhaps the other people that are involved, and making those connections. Which we're going to talk about now is making those connections. I'm just going to give you a couple minutes to make a list. Make a list of anyone who you know who works in healthcare, any aspect of healthcare, anybody involved in research, any kind of research, and or anybody involved in any organization that you're interested in, or an activity that you're interested in that relates to your career goal. So I'll give you just a minute or two to think about that. Write it down if you're able to. Okay, hopefully you were able to identify a few people and make a list. So who did you come up with? I'm gonna guess that on your list may include some of these groups, somebody from some of these groups. Your family could be your friends or classmates, your professors or your TAs, anybody that you either maybe supervises you in a job or a volunteer coordinator role. Could be your own healthcare providers, your own physicians or dentists or physical therapists, somebody who has cared for you throughout your life, or a family member. Certainly alumni can come up. Do you know, for example, do you know a current, a UIUC alum who is now in PA school or is a practicing physical therapist? That's just a start. And keep in mind, each of these groups also has family and friends. So when you think about your own family, it's not just, in your household or who you grew up with, but it could be, extended family. For example, a parent's cousin's child, that maybe they're a nurse, they're a physician, they're an occupational therapist, or an x-ray tech, something like that. And then of course your friends. Well, what about your friends' parents? Or your neighbors? I actually left neighbors off. What do your neighbors do? Do they have family members who are in healthcare? So there's all of these folks out there who are in your circle. You just have to think of your circle as really, really big. But everybody all of these folks in your circle, in your network, should know that you're preparing for a career in the health professions. That way they can be on the lookout when an opportunity does come up. If they're in the field, they can say, oh, I know that you're interested in this. This came up. Or of course they can help connect you to practitioners. And of course you can talk to them. You can start with them about their field. Again, even if it's, if you want to be a dentist and your neighbor's a nurse, you should still talk to that nurse and get a sense of their role, where they work, what kind of things they do in their jobs. But everybody should know that you're preparing for a career in the health professions. So let's talk about engaging this group. It really, again, depends the opportunities that you're looking for. If you are looking for if you're thinking that you might be interested in doing some research in a lab, and your TA talks about her research and her role, you can simply ask, that sounds interesting. Are there any openings in your lab? Or, if you are looking to observe a physical therapist, asking anybody who works anywhere in healthcare, do you know of any physical therapists that you could connect me to, that I could talk to? If your classmate is talking about the internship they have lined up, that they were successful in obtaining, or maybe they just completed. Hey, how did you find out about that internship? I didn't hear about that. That sounds really neat. And if you are currently or looking ahead when we can sort of get back and out there and engage in person, but if you are currently in a volunteer opportunity and maybe you're ready to see, you're ready to have more experiences, like at a hospital or a clinic or a dental clinic, you can, go to your coordinator, your volunteer supervisor, and say, I'm really enjoying this. When might I be able to explore other volunteer opportunities in the hospital? And if you have something specific in mind, then you can ask for that. How do I volunteer here, in this other area? And so that's how you're engaging. You're asking. Again, it comes down to taking the initiative. None of these things are going to be handed to you. And so it's leveraging these contacts. It's asking where they heard about these things, if there's openings, and who do they know? Who can you connect me to? I'd really appreciate it. That's one way to engage this group.
Jenny, we have a question that's,
Sure.
I think, related to what you're talking about right now. Sid asked, how would you frame these kind of questions with the pandemic in mind?
Yep.
Like, cannot research in a lab now or volunteer because they're immunocompromised?
Yep, and I was going to get to that, so thank you. Exactly. I'm not quite there yet. So I think first, and I will address this, I talk a little bit more about this coming up, but first and foremost, you can still talk to people, right? You can, do it over Skype, over Zoom, over the phone. You can still do that informational interview, and that's what we'll talk about here in a little bit. But you can also just, ask these questions of, when do you think these, is there a plan? Is there a date when these opportunities are going to open back up? And then, of course, the issue of, safety, personal and health safety. Not everybody is going to be able to just jump right back into these things, which is completely okay. And it's going to affect a lot of people that way. Looking ahead to applying to health professions programs, they are more than well aware that these volunteer and work opportunities, or volunteer opportunities, shadowing opportunities have gone away due to the COVID pandemic. So they're more than well aware of that. So it's, what other things can you do? You can talk to somebody about their research, right? You can learn more about it. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty difficult, to get into these spots right now. Yep, good question. One thing to be aware of is if you're going to ask, you're going to start engaging folks and talk to them about their careers. Well, guess what? You might be asked about your career goals. So you should be ready to be able to talk about yourself. And really what that means is really figuring out your why. Why do you want to be a dentist? Why do you want to be a physician? If your answer is to help people, that is absolutely okay. That's a great place to start. But why is it medicine? Why is it dentistry? Why is it nursing? I want to help people, but I don't want to touch people, poke them, or ask for bodily fluids, or be responsible for the decisions that someone in healthcare might have to make. So that's why I'm personally not in healthcare. But why is healthcare, and maybe specifically medicine, dentistry, et cetera, why is that your route? And so you really do have to have an idea of your own interests, your values, your passions, to be able to talk about that why. When you're asked, so you're interested in medicine, tell me about that. Why do you want to be a doctor? Why do you want to be a physician assistant? So just something to be aware of, that you are probably going to be asked that well before you apply to any of these programs. So you're going to start engaging, and sometimes you might be engaging people who you don't know, right? It's not a family member. And so just some things to keep in mind when you're maybe sending an email or talking over the phone, but you have to introduce yourself, and that includes your name, could be your major and your educational background, and of course your career aspirations. We're going to get into some examples and things here in a bit. And then if there's a connection or a related experience, you could share that too. My neighbor gave me your email address and said you might be open to chatting with me about your career in blank. Or maybe you read a news release on a PI who's been doing some research that you're really interested in. And so you're kind of like, hey, this is why I'm emailing you. This is why I'm contacting you. So you need to get in the habit of doing that. And then what are you asking for, right? What is the ask here? It could be opportunities. It could be, are there research, are there undergrad research opportunities in your lab? It could be something about volunteering. It could be shadowing or observation hours. It could be an informational interview, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this next. But an informational interview is just simply talking with someone about their career, about their career path, about the work that they do day in and day out. Again, I'll jump into that a little bit more. I think right now, given the COVID pandemic and the lack of in-person opportunities, this is really going to be key right now. I attended a webinar yesterday from an optometry school, Indiana University School of Optometry, and they're well aware that places, optometrists are not accepting volunteers or allowing pre-optometry students to shadow right now. And they specifically said, those students should be doing informational interviews because you're still getting information. But maybe you're asking for a letter of recommendation, maybe not right now, and maybe it's not for admissions purposes, but it could be a letter of recommendation that helps you get a leadership position or a paid experience that can help build your application to a health profession school. You could also just be asking for support, right? Or looking for a mentor, or just someone to, a sounding board, someone to kind of be with you along your journey to your career. So an informational interview, it's just asking someone about their job. Here are just a few examples. If you do a quick Google search, you will get so many questions. And of course, you can add your own. But a really typical question could just be starting out with, so what is a typical day like, or a typical week like for a pharmacist in your role? What do you like most about your work? What do you like least? They can share their viewpoints or their insight on some current issues and trends. And then you can really ask whatever it is you're interested in. Specifically, there's a question here that talks about, general lifestyle. Well, if you want to be much more to the point, you can say, no, really, do you have time for a family? How does this work? It's okay to ask questions like that. Then you can ask them how they even began their career. And the question of, would you go back and do it all over again? I think you should also be, I would caution you to be ready to hear sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you get 20 people in a room and ask them about their jobs, some of them are going to be happy, but maybe not all of them. So again, these are careers and roles that are very, very stressful, right? Lots of them see people on their worst days. And so you may not hear all about just the rainbows and unicorns. You're going to hear about some of the hard stuff, probably the stuff that, a practitioner can't even control. So just be prepared for that. And I think it's good to hear that because some of them are going to have some opinions about their careers and their roles. So I think that can be helpful. Yeah, but you can ask it basically anything you want. And listening to someone's career trajectory is very interesting as well. Here's an example. So if you're thinking about reaching out to, this is just an example for somebody reaching out to a researcher on campus. A couple things I want to point out. It's short and to the point. And also I started with Dr. Jones. I did not start it with, hey, which is, unfortunately we see that from time to time, but you want to keep it professional. Again, I start off with introducing myself, and then I share that kind of connection. Why am I emailing this person specifically? Because I attended their talk on health disparities, and I'm looking to see if there's any research opportunities. Again, keeping in mind, with the COVID pandemic, things are really probably going to be, possibly anyway, on hold going forward for hopefully not long, but we just don't know. You all know that we don't know, right? So you can, at the very least, show your interest and ask how to get, you could still ask, is there any way for me to get involved? Maybe it's not going to be a formal role right away. So this is just one example again. And you can tailor this to many other things, So a couple tips when you are getting ready to engage either in person, over the phone, or in email. You want to be patient, but yet persistent, and you always want to remain professional in your communications and your approach. You do want to be persistent. If you email, if I email Dr. Jones on Thursday, and it's Monday and I still haven't heard from Dr. Jones, I'm not going to send an email Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to be far more patient, really probably over a week, maybe even 2 weeks before I follow up again. So there's kind of that, professionally persistent, I guess is what I would call it. And you do have to be prepared. You need to be prepared for not hearing back. You need to be prepared to hear no. No, there's nothing at this time. And that's okay. You move on to the next person on your list that you're interested in connecting with. If you haven't started this, I would really recommend keeping a journal of your experiences, volunteering, shadowing, informational interviews, whatever they may be, research, and really reflect on those experiences as you're going through them, because that can help a lot, especially when it comes time to write your applications. As you are, compiling these contacts, keep a spreadsheet or a Google Docs or some way. Keep track of who these people are, their contact information, how you met them, or who introduced you, whatever it may be, or their area of research, something like that. But keep track of these things so that when something comes up, and you can easily find that information and contact them. Also, I really urge you to stay connected with your network. And what I mean by that is keep them updated, especially those folks who are in your corner, either personally or professionally. Keep them updated on your progress. What new experiences have you gained, or research experience, things like that. Keep them up to date on your experiences, especially anybody who you think you're going to ask to write a letter of recommendation. So this helps, keep you at the forefront of their mind. This helps them understand your journey to medicine or dentistry, pharmacy, etc. And it's the more they know about you, the better letter they're going to write for you. So keeping them updated. And also, if you got a new job and they wrote a recommendation, and certainly if you're successful in admission to these programs, let your letter writers know. It's really important because they've put in some work on your behalf, and they want to be able to celebrate with you as well.
Jenny, someone asks, how do we balance between patience and persistence?
Yep, professional persistence. Yep. I mean, like I said, I would say at least 1 full week, maybe even, a little bit longer before you follow up. And then if you don't hear anything, you don't hear anything. Yeah.
And Camila asked, what types of service can we do towards fulfilling some of the requirements for admissions?
Well, I feel like that is a completely different presentation, right?
Right.
Right. So to be a competitive applicant for any of these programs, it's going to be a combination of course, your academics and an admission score, but it's also going to be a combination of volunteer, community service. It could be paid work if you have that, that's okay. You don't have to have that. But you need to look like somebody who wants to be a blank. So if you are interested in dentistry, you need to spend time with dentists. Then of course there's sort of outliers like physician assistant, which is the preparation can be quite different from any of these others, because to pursue PA, you need to have thousands of hours of direct patient care. So that's pretty different. Yeah, does that kind of touch on it a little bit?
And someone asked about the email. When they follow up, do they reply to the same email that they sent previously or start a new one?
I personally, I might start a new one, but I've also seen it, you know, you could forward the other one as well. I think it's just personal preference. I might be a little more leaning towards just, you know, starting a new email instead of forwarding that other one.
And Samantha asks, how do you reintroduce yourself to a person in your network if life has happened and you have been out of touch?
I think you can say just that. You can remind them of where you initially connected, and just kind of start from there.
And then how do you determine whether or not a physician would be a good mentor?
Ooh. I mean, I don't think you can really know that until you spend some time with that person and you know, have some conversations and get to know them a little bit. And, you know, are you going to be, you know, do they, you know, is that a good fit? You feel comfortable with them? You feel comfortable sharing things about your journey? They have, you know, sort of the attitude that you're looking for, the outlook that you're looking for, you know, do you feel supported by that person? I think that's probably a good place to start.
And then we had the question about maintaining the connection as far as how often to update him, but more specifically, how do we maintain the connection without making it awkward or boring?
You know,
hard.
Yeah, it is hard. It's not going to be easy. And I'm not going to promise you that none of this won't be awkward. It definitely can be, but I think I know it's not very simple, but you just have to kind of get over that, and just be the one, you know, take that initiative. That's really the important step. What was the first part of that question, or how often maybe?
How to maintain the connection.
Yeah. And I think that's going to, yeah, I think it really depends on the connection too, and what, you know, what that relationship is. So I think it's going to have to depend there. But I mean, I wouldn't say you need to be on a schedule or anything like that, but I would say when you have something to share, that it's probably going to be appropriate to do that. So if that's, you know, I don't think there has to be a schedule of, oh, it's been 3 months, I should email that person. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It can be more natural.
Do you want to go ahead and want to keep going, or do you?
Yep, I've got a little bit more.
We can, never fear, we'll get to your questions here at the end. So.
Yep. So, how do we find some of these opportunities, these specific experiences? I talked a lot about networking, and you know, building connections and utilizing and keeping your connections. But also, as somebody asked just a little bit ago, specifically about opportunities. Again, keeping in mind things are going to look very different for the foreseeable future due to you know, the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you are looking to volunteer or shadow in a hospital or clinic, go to the website of that hospital or clinic that you're interested in and look for the volunteer tab. If you're looking for paid work, go to the HR, you know, the job openings. Do this for whatever kind of institution you're interested in. If you're looking for a research position, you know, an entry-level research position after you graduate, you know, for example, University of Chicago, go to their job openings page and look for their research positions that are listed. And same with labs that you might be interested. Sometimes, not all the time, of course, sometimes PIs will advertise or list openings in their labs, or maybe even have a form to fill out. So again, even though some of these are not going to be available, right now, you could at least fill out that form to say, yep, I'm interested in volunteering at this hospital or in this capacity. And you can, hopefully they'll follow up with you, but if not, you can follow up with them. LinkedIn can be a valuable tool, especially when you're searching UIUC alumni, and to see where they've gone. And, maybe you can find a physical therapist who graduated from U of I, and that can be your in. That's your shared connection, right? You're a current student. Social media could be a place as well to find some of these things, to either find connections or to find opportunities. Our Facebook page, we share opportunities that that we come across, internships, jobs, volunteering opportunities. And so if you're interested in a specific place, a specific hospital, a specific institution, etc., pay attention to their social media because they do share such things. If you're interested in research, undergrad research opportunities, we have a whole office on our campus dedicated to helping you find and secure undergrad research opportunities, and there's a link there to that. Another great resource the amount of research on our campus, let's just say, is vast, right? It doesn't even come close to capturing it. But there's a great resource, Illinois Experts, and you can search all of the research that's being done and who's doing it. And so that's a great way to find things that you're interested in and research who's doing it, and then ultimately contacting them if that's what you want to do. If you're looking for things like jobs or internships, Handshake is our University of Illinois job search platform, so you can find some opportunities there as well. But don't forget about your registered student organizations. Many of them have connections to community involvement and volunteering, and some even have clinical experiences. And so that's going to be a great resource as well. And you can always Google things. If you're looking for an occupational therapist to shadow, you can try Googling even where are the occupational therapists, like where do they practice in my community? That's a good place to start. You can even search for internships and things like that. I think for homework for the summer, I thought I could challenge you all to complete 2 to 3 informational interviews this summer. Again, they can be completed over the phone. And then if you have not created a resume, or if you haven't updated your resume, I would also challenge you to do that this summer as well, especially as we're looking ahead to trying to engage people and find opportunities. They might want a resume to see your experiences. So if you don't have that up and ready, that's something else to do over the summer. And of course, the Career Center can help review and help you build your resume. I just wanted to share some information about health profession advising at U of I. So we are located in the Career Center. But right now, of course, we're all located at our respective homes for the summer. But we help through each stage of your career journey. So we are there to help you explore if you're choosing between pharmacy and nursing, let's say. And then we kind of help with the next stage of preparing, where you are seeking out these opportunities. And we can talk you through these processes as well, help you strategize. And then my favorite part really is helping students through the application process, and we are right in the thick of it. So medicine application is open, PT, PA, dentistry, and so we have students who are in this right now, and that's really my favorite part. Again, I think it's probably because of my experience, working in MD admissions, but I really like this aspect of it because they've worked so hard, and now we're going to put it in an application and try to be the best, the strongest applicant that they can be. And I like to be part of that. But we help through all of that process. We can talk to you about, helping you narrow down your school list. We review personal statements. We review your application materials before you hit submit. And then looking ahead, we will help you prepare for interviews and things like that. We have a resource for current Illinois students on Compass. You should see probably in your Compass dashboard, Pre-Health at Illinois. There's lots of good resources, again, for each stage, exploring, preparing, and applying. That link is to our website for pre-health advising at the Career Center. That's where you can sign up for a 30-minute appointment. We still have drop-ins this summer, although we cut them from twice a week to just once a week. And so we're available for drop-ins. You don't need an appointment during those times. And then I wanted to highlight our pre-health ambassadors. It's a group of pre-health students from a variety of health professions, pursuing a variety of health professions. And they're just students who want to help other pre-health students. And so you can look ahead to fall, and we will be utilizing them in some peer advising and programming capacities. So that's just a quick little snapshot of what we do. So what other questions might there be?
So let me go back to some of the questions that were asked, and please feel free to drop any questions you have in chat that you haven't already, or if you want to follow up to anything that Jenny's mentioned. One thing, Jenny, I wanted to ask with your last slide, we have people from all over the country on this webinar. What would you suggest as far as their career centers, or what can Illinois provide to people that may not be Illinois students?
Sure.
What's your suggestion there?
So if you are a current college student somewhere else, visit your pre-health advising office or your academic advisor or your career center. So we serve current Illinois students. We also, for pre-health advising, we also serve alumni, which I'm very, very pleased about. Because a lot of these professions take years, can take years to develop enough experiences and really be ready to apply. And so we don't say, oh, you probably need to take a gap year, goodbye. We say, you're gonna, you have some plans, you're gonna get a master's degree, well, come back, we'll still help you apply. We'll still help you with that personal statement. If someone is out there and again, not an Illinois student or alum, and they feel like they don't have a pre-health advisor, they can look up NAAHP, the National Association for Advisors of Health Professions. And there is a service that can find somebody for you. So if you don't have something at your school, or you are no longer in school, and your institution doesn't serve alumni, they can find somebody to help you.
Okay.
That's a great question.
We have, how should we choose which professors should write our letters of recommendation for medical school? I go to a very big school, and many of the pre-med classes were large and impersonal.
Yep. So the first thing is to get to know the programs that you're interested in, because some medical schools want different letters. So you're not getting, you might need different letters for different schools. So that's going to be number one, is you have to meet the requirements for each school that you're applying to. That goes for letters of rec, that goes for courses, things like that. So it really just kind of depends on where you're applying. A good rule of thumb usually is 2 science faculty who have taught you. And then that third letter could be non-science faculty, or it could be what we call an experience letter, so a supervisor from a job or a volunteer experience. So yeah, that is a very real challenge, how to get those letters. But the bottom line is you have to get the letters. So you have to, if you have to start letting some of those instructors know that you're pre-med or pre-dentistry, et cetera. And at some point you're going to need a letter. And so getting to know that person, the earlier the better. And I do completely understand it is challenging at big schools.
And then this is kind of related, so you've touched on it a little bit. Is there any particular way I should ask for the recommendation letters? Should they talk to them?
I mean, there's sort of the pre-COVID answer, and then where we are now, right? I mean, if you are able to ask in person, I think that can always be good. But I think starting off with an email is fine as well. That's completely fine. And I always recommend to students that they offer, you know, to meet, or what other kinds of information can I give you to help you, you know, either write the letter or determine if you're comfortable writing the letter. You know, so you could send them your resume, your personal statement, something like that. These are great questions.
We have a question as a follow-up. If it's a bad fit, in reference to someone shadowing, if it's a bad fit, how do you respectfully stop shadowing that person?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it depends. I mean, if it's something that has already been set up, like, okay, I will see you once a month for, you know, the next 6 months, or is it once a week? That, I think that's different than shadowing them one time and thanking them, thanking them for their time and the experience, and then just kind of leaving that be. But if it's something that has been set up to be repeated, I think you could probably just say, you know, I appreciate the opportunity, but actually something else has come up and I'm not able to continue. Again, thank you so much. I learned a lot, you know, something like that. But do not just stop showing up. Do not stop showing up. Do not ignore them. You know, you're the one exiting.
How do I communicate myself as a good candidate for a research position? Let's say if I don't have any work experience.
Yeah. Goodness. Again, I think that's a completely different, that could be a whole presentation on that. Again, I think you're going to start with your interest. You know, what is that connection? Why are you interested in that specific research group? What are they doing? So you don't have to have work experience to show, you know, that you can show up and do the work. You know, think about, do you have any other experience, your volunteer experience, you know, anything that you've been showing up to show that you can keep up with your commitments. I think that can be a good place to start.
Okay. Do you suggest we contact people in our local area for an informational interview, or should we be reaching out farther, or should be reaching out farther also be considered?
Sure. Either way. It really, I don't think it matters.
Is it more important on a pre-med resume, the type of experiences that you have on how long you did them? So it sounds like she's saying the type of experiences, does it matter how long you did them versus just the experience itself?
Yep. So there's going to be a little bit of a balance there. You know, typically a health profession school doesn't want, you know, if we put your experiences, if we could depict them in a linear way, they don't want to see a bunch of little dashes. It's okay if you have some. I tried this, I didn't like it, or this was just a short experience. That's okay. But they're going to also want to see that you have kind of gone deeper into something as well.
Okay, this one I'm not sure is for you specifically, Jenny, but are there any specific ways to get involved at Carle, Illinois as an undergrad? I would suggest to email us. I'm going to drop the reach email. It's also on our webpage, to give us some, if there's some specific interests you have, and we can talk with you more about what you're interested in, how you're interested in getting involved. So I'm going to kind of put that there, and we can always talk to you specifically about those ideas, because I think it would depend on what you're thinking about. The next question, how soon do you think it is to make a LinkedIn profile? I'm a rising sophomore. Do you think I should already have one?
Sure. Yep. Now would be a good time to start your professional LinkedIn profile. It's a great way to connect. It can be a great way to connect with alumni. That's always my go-to. But of course, other you can connect with other people really based on the types of searches that you do or what you're looking for. And actually the Career Center can help with that. We do LinkedIn profile reviews as well as resume reviews.
Excellent. Do you think it would be better to reach out to smaller clinics and practices or big universities and hospitals?
I mean, I think you might just have to do both, given, you know, I mean, there are lots of pre-health students around, and so you might find yourself doing both. I think it really just depends what kind of experience you want, first and foremost, if that's possible.
On a resume, how do we balance keeping it to one page versus telling as many experiences as we can?
I would refer that person to the Career Center or their own Career Center, but to work on that. The resume typically is tailored to whatever it is you're applying to. If it's just simply to share with a contact, a connection, and let them, you know, to see what you've been doing, that's different than you know, a one-page resume and you're applying for a job, you know, your first job out of college, let's say. That might need to look a little bit more different. But typically that resume is going to be tailored to whatever the position is that you're applying for, or you're trying to sort of inform that person or organization of your experiences. So I would say in general, it's going to be your most relevant, not necessarily everything you've ever done. Again, this is super fast about resumes.
Would a science professor's letter of recommendation from an introductory course like general chemistry be less preferable compared to a professor from a more advanced course?
No, not necessarily. It's going to depend on who, you know, ideally, and I know this is difficult, but ideally who knows you better, who you had more interaction with, but in general, not really.
All the doctors in my area have been very overwhelmed with student shadowers. What is another way to try and seek other shadowing opportunities?
I mean, again, I think utilizing your network, and are there and again, I know that, you know, things are not opening up right now because of the pandemic, but are there other opportunities instead of shadowing, right? Volunteering opportunities. So when we talk about shadowing, what I'm really talking about is clinical exposure, right? You need to be around where patients are being diagnosed and treated. And so does it matter if you're shadowing a doctor, or maybe you're going to have great experience as a healthcare tech or volunteering in some capacity? So I think try not to get too hung up on, you know, I have to shadow versus just getting that exposure.
Okay, we just have a couple minutes left, so we're going to try and get through as many of these last questions as we can. If not, again, feel free to email us at reach and we will make sure you get that. We will try and put some of the common questions out on our website also at some point. So we do want to get to all of your questions. Jenny, for you, we talked about career path development, owning your own path and your end goal, such as finding that traditional way into medical school, like a certain GPA, high MCAT score. If I'm struggling with the MCAT, how do I discern which is the next best step is right without wasting more time and money, i.e. a post-bac, a master's, etc.?
Yep, great question. And I think that's where talking with a pre-health advisor can really be really helpful, because I mean, I definitely can't answer that question in just a few seconds here. So I'd be far more interested in hearing about your path. But medical schools are not looking, and dental schools, pharmacy schools, etc., are not looking for the perfect applicant, because they know there is no such thing as perfect. They really, really know there is no such thing as perfect. And so they want to hear your whole story, your whole journey. And Lisa, I don't know if you want to chime in here from the Carl perspective from your medical school, but You know, many schools practice holistic admissions, and they really
Yes.
look at everything.
We absolutely look at holistically at everything. So while an MCAT, of course, is important for medical school and GPA, they, much to what Jenny has been talking about, we also look at your experiences, your volunteerism, your creativity, kind of going back to what I mentioned at the very beginning, our 4 C's, some of the different things that you might have done and are able to show us that holistic, show yourself holistically. So I do agree. I think specifically for you, talking to your health advisor or an advisor of some type if you are struggling with the MCAT is appropriate. But there are lots of other things that you should be working on as well. So don't discount those in the meantime. And we are at 3 o'clock. We do have several other questions, great questions. So what I'm going to do, we will hang on to these questions and I will make sure Ginny gets them so that we can get back to you on them. Like I said, we will try and get some of the very common ones out on our website for everybody. This webinar was recorded, so that will be accessible here soon at a later date. For anybody, if in the meantime you have a question after we sign off today, please feel free to email that reach email and we will get back to you on that. And Ginny, if you had any last words before we sign off here?
No, these were fantastic questions, and I hope this topic and material is helpful to you, and good luck.
Thank you, Ginny. We appreciate you joining us today. Thank you, everybody, for coming.